Hello and welcome back, folks. Today we're covering one of the most talked about watches of 2026, but unlike most of the coverage you'll have seen, this one isn't on loan, it isn't borrowed, and it's not something I'll be handing back once the filming wraps. It's actually mine. We're talking about the Longines Hydroconquest that comes with a black lacquered dial, blue ceramic bezel, and sits on that brand new Milanese mesh bracelet. It's taken a while for this watch to land on the channel, and that's actually deliberate. I let the initial hype dial down first, took my time with it, and made sure I picked the exact combination that genuinely called to me rather than jumping on the first one I saw. No rush, no freebie, and no returning it to a boutique display case the moment the camera stops rolling. Which brings me to the real gap in most of this watch's coverage. Plenty of hands-on videos exist already, whether that's 5 minutes at a boutique, videos made from press footage, or a loaner for a week before it goes straight back in the box. What you won't find as often is someone who's actually lived with it, which is exactly what this video is. I've worn this thing on rotation for a couple of months now, so what follows is what it's actually like to own, not just what it's like to hold for a fleeting moment. Now, before we get into the details, it's worth explaining why I went for this particular combination in the first place. I opted for the 39mm case over the 42, and we'll unpack that decision a little more shortly. And when you add the mesh bracelet into that mix, the whole thing stops wearing like a tool diver altogether, leaning instead towards something dressier, which was exactly the lane I was chasing. And with that context out of the way, let's start with the bezel and the bracelet, since that combination is what convinced me to pull the trigger in the first place. Now let's start with the obvious, the color combination itself. There's something about this black lacquer dial sitting underneath that blue ceramic bezel that just feels right, and it's hard to put into words until you've actually seen it catch the light. And it's versatile too in a way that surprised me. Depending on the strap, the lighting, or even just the occasion, it can lean formal one moment and properly sporty the next, which isn't something every colorway manages to pull off. What really cemented the decision was the shopping process itself. Around the same time I was eyeing up the Longines, I was also in the market for my Tudor Black Bay 58, so I went hands-on with Tudor's blue bezel offerings too, both the Black Bay 58 and the Black Bay 54. Good watches, no denying that. But side by side, the Longines came out feeling the most refined of the three, and a lot of that comes down to the ceramic bezel itself, and the way it plays off that lacquered black dial. There's a refined depth to it that the aluminium inserts on the Tudors just couldn't quite match. And that actually worked out perfectly, because choosing the blue bezel here meant I could stick with the traditional black dial on my Black Bay 58, rather than feeling like I needed to chase a blue variant there too. Two watches, two different itches scratched with no overlap between them. Which brings us onto the bracelet, because that's really where this watch separates itself from anything else at this price. But before we move on, can I please ask that you hit the subscribe button, like the video, and come and find me over on Instagram. Your support really does help to grow the channel, so thank you. The second reason I gravitated toward this black and blue combination is one that had nothing to do with color at all. At the time I bought this, Longines only offered this particular dial and bezel pairing on the mesh bracelet, and that honestly wasn't something that excited me at first. I've always liked the way mesh bracelets look, but comfort has never really been their strong suit, at least not in my experience. Longines, though, have properly nailed the execution here. The bracelet uses removable links alongside an on-the-fly micro-adjust clasp, which means you can actually dial in the exact fit for your wrist, rather than settling for close enough. And that solves the classic mesh bracelet problem too, that annoying bulge you tend to get at the bottom near the clasp when the sizing isn't quite right. There's none of that here, and a big part of why it sits so well comes down to the case itself. We're looking at 39mm across, 11.7mm thick, and just 48.1mm lug to lug on a 20mm lug width. Slim, compact, and exactly the kind of proportions that let a bracelet like this do its job properly. And speaking of the 39, that was a deliberate choice on my part too. 40mm tends to be my go-to these days on a 7.5-inch wrist. And that's not going to change just because of this watch. It doesn't mean I'm done buying bigger diameters altogether, but I wanted this one to double up as a formal piece, and once formal wear enters the equation, going large was never really on the cards. So when you put all of that together, this has become one of the most comfortable watches I own. I genuinely didn't see that coming when I bought it, given how lukewarm I've felt about mesh bracelets in the past. And that comfort is exactly why it's been getting such a decent share of wrist time on rotation since I picked it up. And while we're on the subject of what makes this watch feel like it's punching above its station, it's worth getting the numbers out of the way now rather than saving them for the end. So let's start with the obvious one, price. This comes in at £2,050 here in the UK, and for that you're getting a 5-year warranty, along with water resistance rated to 300 meters. That alone puts it in proper dive watch territory, not just dive watch styling. Inside sits the calibre L888, beating away at 25,200 vibrations per hour and built around a silicon balance spring, which brings a genuine improvement in resistance to magnetism and shock over a traditional metal spring. Power reserve lands at 72 hours, so a weekend off the wrist won't leave you resetting the time on Monday morning. And up top you've got sapphire glass with several layers of anti-reflective coating on both sides, which keeps the dial properly legible even when the light's working against you. And then there's the bezel, which honestly deserves its own moment here. This is a unidirectional rotating bezel, and the feel and the click on this thing is fantastic. There's a real precision to the rotation, a satisfying resistance followed by a crisp and confident click into each position. So in summary, I think this is one of the best luxury divers at that £2,000 price point today. The specifications are solid, the finishing is superb, and the all-round package is hard to beat. Longines have hit the nail on the head with this one. Okay, let's move on to the dial itself, and specifically the details that actually matter once you're wearing it rather than just looking at photos. Longines moved away from the big Arabic numerals on this generation, and they went for applied geometric indexes instead, with rectangular batons around most of the dial, and that oversized triangle sitting at 12. It's a small change on paper, but it makes the whole face read as more grown-up, refined sports piece. However, it's worth flagging that at 6 and 9 those markers switch to rounds rather than rectangular. It's a deliberate design choice, and I know some people will have an issue with the inconsistency, but personally it doesn't bother me at all. But it's the kind of detail that's worth calling out. The hand keeps things simple too. It's typical Longines, nothing radically different here, nice and legible. And then there's the Lume, which genuinely exceeded what I expected going in. It's a two-tone application with the minute hand getting a blue glow whilst the rest remains green, and the performance is properly crisp. Honestly, it looks expensive in an Omega or Rolex kind of way, which isn't something I say lightly, but once again highlights a strong point in Longines' arsenal. So, pulling all of that together, where does this actually leave the Hydroconquest? A couple of months in, and this has genuinely become one of the most worn pieces in the rotation. And that's not something I say about every watch that comes through here. The black and blue combination still catches my eye every time I put it on. The mesh bracelet solved a comfort problem I didn't think a mesh bracelet could solve. And the spec sheet backs up what the wrist already tells you: a proper movement, real water resistance, and finishing that punches well above £2,050. And that's really the whole point of this video. It's a real owner's review because I put my money where my mouth is and bought this watch as a collector. This review represents my thoughts after a couple of months of actual ownership, and if anything, my opinion of it has only gotten stronger the longer I've worn it. However, if you're on the fence about this one and you want something that can genuinely go from a t-shirt to a full sleeve shirt without missing a beat, I don't think you'll be disappointed. This is one of the best all-round watches on the market today, so much so it really does make you think. If this could be that elusive one and done contender, the different color and bezel options offered by Longines gives buyers a real choice, and most importantly, these watches are available to buy. No need to suck up to an authorized dealer hoping you might be offered a chance to spend your hard-earned money. So that's it for today, folks. If you've enjoyed the video, a subscribe genuinely helps the channel, and I'm on Instagram too if you want to follow along there. The link's down below. Drop a like if you got some value out of this review because it helps get the video in front of more people. And thank you if you already have, and until next time, keep on ticking.